Hi, I'm Chad Huebener.
And I'm Sara Huebener with Edina Realty. Today we are going to be covering a topic called the seller pre-sign. Buyer signing too, but we're specifically going to be addressing the closing and how that has changed and what it means for buyers and sellers. Since the start of COVID, when everybody had to be separated for social distancing, one of the things that started happening was instead of having buyers and sellers sitting at the closing table across from each other signing papers, title companies began to split that apart. So sellers would come in and pre-sign their documents in advance, and then on the date of closing, a buyer would come in and sign their papers. The biggest misconception is, when is the actual closing? There's a closing date on the purchase agreement, and the buyer always closes on the closing date, but oftentimes sellers believe that they are going to be getting their proceeds, or that they have officially closed or have released ownership of their home on the date of their pre-sign.
And in reality, you as a seller, if you're pre-signing, you could sign the day before closing. We've seen people sign weeks before closing, depending on travel and where you're going. You have possession until the actual closing date on the purchase agreement, which is the day that the buyers signed the purchase agreement. So you have ownership all the way up there.
Unless a different possession date was specified.
Yeah, correct, unless there's a different possession date specified. But it really gives sellers just some flexibility and a little bit of less stress between that pre-sign date and the actual closing date. You get the paperwork out of the way.
Yep.
All the actual legal paperwork are signed, just waiting for the final deed by the buyers to be signed. But you have the time then to get the house ready for the closing.
Yes, and the nice thing is a seller's closing typically, or pre-signing, is typically much shorter than a buyer's, because a buyer has to sign a lot of mortgage documents, which add additional papers that a seller doesn't have to sign. So many times a seller can be in and out of a pre-signing appointment in 20 minutes, 30 usually at the most, where a buyer's signing appointment can take up to an hour. So it's really nice that sellers have that flexibility to sign and go. Then they can go back to their house, do whatever it is they need to do, and continue to enjoy their property until the date of closing when the buyer signs.
And a lot of people that have living out of state, this has happened like this in other states probably forever.
Years, yeah.
Minnesota was one of the last states to where buyers and sellers sat at the same table at closing. And people from out of state always ask us, why would we do that? So now we don't. So.
Yeah, it's actually one of the nice things that came out of COVID for a time savings on the seller end. So hopefully this was helpful. If we can answer any other questions for you, give us a call. Thank you for watching our video and have a great day.